Entrepreneurship is the long game. It's not a sprint. And because entrepreneurship is the long game, a lot of people get frustrated. Even if you're a believer, entrepreneurship is still the long game. So if you go through the Bible, look at all the people that God used for great things, it took a good little while. So if we just go back to Abraham, for example, Abraham was called to be the father of many nations. Abraham took 75 years before he actually even started the journey. He was 100 years old before he even had his child of promise. And even from that point of having a child of promise, we still got several years to go before even begin to look like the promise that God has called him to. If you look at King David was anointed to be king over Israel while Saul was still king. Saul reigned for another few decades before David became king. If we look at Joseph, God gave Joseph a dream when he was a teenager, but it wasn't until he was like 42 before the fullness of the dream came about. If you look at Jesus' life, he was anointed to be the Son of God from his birth, but it wasn't until 30 years old before he actually started his earthly ministry. So the Bible is full of people who God anointed, God chose specifically to do a work, and it took a while for it to accomplish. Even look at the Israelites. God wanted the Israelites to get out of slavery. It took 400 years to get out of slavery. And then once it was out of slavery, it took another 40 years of walking around the wilderness. So they was ready to take over the promised land. And even when they got to the promised land, God said, I'm not going to give you the whole land within a year. I'm going to give it to you little by little. So entrepreneurship is a long game. And I know it can be depressing sometimes because you think to yourself, how come I'm not successful yet? I have these thoughts too. I started Church for Entrepreneurs 11 years ago. And by now, I thought Church for Entrepreneurs have reached more people than we've reached. Now, I'm perfectly happy with where we are. I'm grateful for those of you guys who are part of Church for Entrepreneurs, but that carnal part of me wants it to be more successful. I do just like everybody else. I look at other people's ministries and well, look at this person, look at that minister. By this age, they were here, and here. But that's not how God functions. Everybody has their own timetable that God's working off of. And my timetable is different than your timetable. It's different than Craig Rochelle's timetable. It's different than Mike Todd's timetable. That's why I say entrepreneurship is a long game. So once you realize that entrepreneurship is a long game, that helps you not get as frustrated. Now, you still get frustrated, but it helps you not get as frustrated because you know what you're experiencing is not unusual. It's not the exception to the rule. The long process to success is the rule. That's how God does it. And people who appear to be successful overnight, they really wasn't successful overnight. If they're working for God, God starts everything as a seed. As a seed is planted, the seed grows, and as the seed grows, it takes over the entire garden. But it's a process. Sometimes I like to call it's the slow walk of entrepreneurship with God. I know you may be frustrated at taking a long time, but I want you to just take solace in the fact that this is how God does things. He's slow and then it's sudden. That sudden part is like after a while of you being diligent, doing what you're called to do, then all of a sudden there's this right moment in time where he just accelerates you to a next level of success. So let's be patient. Let's keep the faith. Let's be willing and obedient to keep doing the things that God's called us to do.